Well, I finally did it. I managed to get my hands on a Rock Island Armory Tac Ultra FS. That is a double stacked 1911 9mm full size with the 5-inch barrel. Some of you already know how ridiculous it is trying to find one of these pistols. Seriously, it's not easy. Almost a year ago, I did a review on the 10mm version of this gun. I'll leave a link below for that if you want to check that out. Shooting that gun, I was seriously impressed with how it handled. I was impressed enough that I decided I needed to find the 9mm Tac Ultra and add it to my collection. So that was almost a year ago, and seriously, everywhere I looked, out of stock, out of stock, out of stock. There I was, relaxing on Christmas Day. I just finished a delicious meal of prime rib with the family. I just so happened to do a quick search on my favorite gun store's website. It was a Christmas miracle. There just so happened to be one Rock Island Armory Tac Ultra in stock. Christmas miracle. The next morning, I was at the doors of North Sound Firearms as soon as they opened, so I could make sure that nobody else beat me to it. Of course, as per YouTube guidelines, I'm not going to link to their website. I would if I could, but YouTube would go ahead and demonetize this video if I did. And I've been shopping there for a few years now, and I've just gotten to the point where I prefer not to give my business to anybody else. You know how it is. You find a place that feels like home, a place that has great customer service, and that just ends up being where you do all of your business. For me, that's North Sound. If that wasn't my spot, I wouldn't be sitting here with this Rock Island Armory Tac Ultra in my hot little hands. Believe me, I've looked everywhere and was unable to find one of these anywhere online, let alone in any local gun stores. This thing is an absolute tank. It's a beast, and I cannot wait to get it out to the range and do a little test firing. There's something about a steel-framed gun that just feels different than your run-of-the-mill polymer-framed pistol. That extra weight absorbs recoil, and it makes for an incredibly smooth shooting experience that you just don't get through any striker-fired pistol. You really have to feel it to understand. So what we have here is a 5-inch barrel nestled in a slide that is topped with an orange fiber optic front sight. The rear sight is adjustable. It does have 2 white dots on there. I would have preferred a blacked out rear sight, but honestly, this is going to work just fine for now. As far as an out-of-the-box sight system goes, honestly, this is going to work really well for pretty much anybody out there. The serrations that Rock Island put in the front and rear of the slide, they're deep. They're sharp enough to give a good grip, but not overly sharp if there really is such a thing. While we're talking about the slide, the fitment between the slide rails and the slide itself, it's incredibly tight, surprisingly. I really did kind of expect for it to have a little bit more movement, but they did a really good job at the fitment on this gun. Now, your average polymer striker fired pistol is going to be built with fairly loose tolerances, so when it comes to the fit between the slide and the frame, there's always going to be quite a bit of movement and wiggle room. A lot of people will attribute those loose tolerances with reliability. The gun itself can function with a lot more buildup and debris getting caught in there because of those loose tolerances. I can see that, but I can also see the flip side of that coin. The flip side of that coin is that a gun built with tighter tolerances always going to be more accurate. Regardless of which side of that debate you find yourself on, can we all just take a moment and agree that nothing feels quite as good as a slide that is buttery smooth? Now, in this video, I'm not going to get into comparing this Rock Island Armory and this STI, but the almost glass-like feel of the slide on this gun is so close to what I'm getting with the Tactical 4.0 with a gun that's half the price. We all know that appeals to my cheaper side. I like the full-length dust cover. I really am a sucker for the square body look of this type of gun. Nothing catches my eye quite like this style, And as an added benefit, I've got a little extra weight up here to help mitigate recoil. The trigger on this Rock Island Armory comes in at a surprising 4 pounds 7 ounces and feels just as smooth as you would expect any 1911 trigger to function. Honestly, I'm happy enough with the trigger on this gun that I'm probably not going to make any adjustments on it until well after the break-in period. Even then, any type of trigger adjustment is realistically going to be seriously low on my list of priorities for upgrades for this gun. The grip safety is really well fitted. I'm not finding any sharp edges anywhere, like they were in a rush to slap this thing together and ship it to the US. The magwell is tight and secure, and it definitely makes a lot of difference when it comes to speedy mag changes. If you're not used to using a gun that has a magwell, you should. It will definitely change your life. I like a magwell because it gives me just a little bit of extra grip to really lock down on it with my hands. The better your grip is, the more control you're going to have over a firearm. Now let's talk about mags. This Tac Ultra came with one 17-round magazine. I feel like regardless of how much the gun costs, no pistol should ever come with less than 2 mags. Really, 3 mags should be the standard. So of course I had to hunt down more mags. How am I supposed to take this thing out and test it with only having 1? Finding mags was nearly as hard to do as finding the gun in the first place. I did manage to secure 2 of these 20-round mags at $80 a piece, so at least there's that. I seriously spent days looking for spare 17-round mags, but I couldn't find them, so I had to settle for the 20s, which may look a little funny, but I mean, can you really go wrong with 20 rounds out of a 1911 shooting 9mm? Did I mention there's no sponsor for today's video? The cost of the Tac Ultra, the ridiculously overpriced and hard to find magazines, the ridiculously overpriced ammo that I'm about to blow through it. Yes, that's all out-of-pocket costs. If you want to help support the channel and keep me out of the poorhouse while I take this Rock Island Armory out and do some testing, click some of those links below down in the description. Those links are affiliate links, so I get a small kickback anytime you click a link and go do whatever BS shopping you already had planned on doing. That money, of course, goes to help pay for overpriced ammo for videos like this. Now, as far as first impressions go, it's not a total love affair with this gun. Setting aside my issue with drastically overpriced and hard to find magazines, the mag release itself, I don't know, it's overly stiff and kind of hard to get to. Now sure, I may be used to using the mag release on my M&P, which is a lot closer and easier to use, but the stiffness of this thing is unreal. And I'm hoping that over time, it'll break in a little bit and feel just a little bit easier to use. Upgrading the mag release, I'm putting that as number 2 on my list of future upgrades for the gun. Much like the last Rock Island Armory that I reviewed, the ambidextrous safety is nice and solid. It's got a good positive click to it and functions very well. Downside to the safety is that the actual ledge for your thumb, it's not quite as wide as I would like it to be, and overall the edges on it a little sharper than I like. Now since this one isn't a loaner like the last Rock Island that I reviewed, I could go ahead and file down some of these edges, smooth them out, Cerakote it and reinstall it, but I think I'm going to put something on here that has just a little bit wider of a ledge. On a pistol like this, when I'm gripping it to fire, I like to use that thumb safety as a ledge for my thumb to help give me more control of the pistol itself. So replacing this safety, that's going to be priority 1 as far as upgrades go. The grips, well, they're really nothing special, and from what I understand, these are kind of a proprietary design, so there isn't a huge range of options for upgrades as far as grips go. Now these aren't exactly horrible, but I would like some options, so I may have to get a little creative on that. The grip itself, it's one of those things where you pick this pistol up and it really feels like you're holding a rounded brick. I really wish Rock Island would redesign these and start putting them out as actual 2011s so that we could have the versatility of those interchangeable grip modules. Now I'm going to be okay shooting this gun, but the grip itself, it's definitely not for everybody. There's actually a really strong possibility that after the break-in period, I'm probably going to put it up on the bench and re-profile around here so that it fits my hand just a little bit better. The front side of this grip is really just a little too wide. Now, after taking some measurements, I am fairly confident that I can go ahead and grind some of this down, re-profile it, and have just a slightly more comfortable grip without actually compromising any structural integrity. That's another later on project though. Like I said, I want to put the gun through its break-in period to get a feel for how it runs before I start changing things and putting different parts on it. I definitely want to get a couple thousand rounds through it before I start modifying the frame of all things. I mean, realistically, if I get 1,000 rounds through it and I find that it's just as comfortable in my hand while shooting as it needs to be, then there's no reason in putting it on the bench and grinding it. All right, as everybody knows, times are hard, ammo's hard to find, it's overpriced. I had to get this thing out, do a little test work with it. It's pissing down rain today, so I probably won't stay out too long, but here we go. Of course, the day I plan to go test this gun, all it does is piss down rain. That's Washington for you. If it's not raining, it's getting ready to rain. So the Tac Ultra handled really well. It is a heavy gun with a 5-inch barrel and a very smooth 1911 trigger. As far as accuracy goes, I'm more than happy with the accuracy. I was up there today shooting in really bad conditions, and I really didn't see any negative effects on the accuracy as far as weather goes. My glasses were wet, they kept fogging up, but I managed to stay on target pretty much my entire morning up at the gravel pit. Now, I will be taking this gun over to North Sound Firearms here in the next probably 2 weeks. One of the things that I love about that place is that connected inside of the building is an indoor shooting range, Skagit shooting range. So I can go into North Sound, I can buy a new firearm, and then I can head into the other portion of the building and do a little shooting before I head home. The advantage of an indoor shooting range, obviously, weather isn't a factor. The other thing is you can test accuracy at specific distances. Now, I love outdoor shooting. There's nothing like making steel ring out at the gravel pit. But if I'm looking to collect data at specific distances, an indoor range is really the only way to go. I'll tell you what I didn't like about this gun, and that's the rear sight. I practice with my STI from time to time with the red dot turned off, just so that I have to keep my iron sight skills up to date, so to speak. That gun has a blacked out rear sight. The Rock Island Armory, it's got the 2 white dots. I'm not a fan, and I think before I take it out next time, I'm going to take some black paint and I'm just going to cover up those white dots so that it's blacked out. That should hold me over until I figure out exactly what direction I'm going to go with the sighting system for this gun, which, let's face it, probably going to be a red dot. Considering the size and shape of the grip, I found it a little bit more comfortable than I had originally expected. Don't get me wrong, it is excessive, and there's really no reason why Rock Island can't do a little bit of a redesign and slim that thing down a little bit. I'd prefer to see them go to a more modular system like a 2011, but I mean, at this point, if you're gonna keep with the 1911 style, at least slim that grip down. Considering current market pricing, it was a pretty expensive morning. I blew through around 200 rounds, didn't see any issues at all with this gun. The only issues that I experienced this morning were with my camera. Pro tip, if you're going to do any filming, make sure your memory card is either empty or you bring a spare. Lesson learned on that one. So every round that I shot, it fed nice and smooth. They all ejected just as they should. All in all, the Tac Ultra ran well and it performed past what my expectations were. I really felt like a double stack 1911 at this price point was going to need a little bit of work before it was running reliably. As far as I can tell though, the gun's good to go. Over the last year, I've asked myself over and over and over again, why are these guns so hard to find? Why is the demand for them so high? I think I get it now. This gun comes in under $1,000. It's well made. It functions smoothly. It's accurate. It is heavy enough that if you run out of ammo, it can be used as a melee weapon. If you ask me, there's a lot of value in the Rock Island firearms. If you're on the fence about them, if you can actually find one in stock, just go ahead and buy it. Sure, it's not a true 2011, but it's also not $2,000+ and they run pretty well. So that's it for today. I'm sorry this video ran so long, but I didn't want to cut it up into 2 videos and make you wait for my final impressions of the gun. So you're welcome.